Welcome to the Hero Escape Podcast, your weekly escape from the catastrophic destruction of your homeworld. I am one of your three co-hosts, Nathaniel Blevins.
This is David Saxon.
And I am Dave Corliss, and it is time for our Ragnarok review. Happy Thor, everyone.
It finally happened.
Yes. After much anticipation and excitement.
A lot of people said it wouldn't. Well, wait, hold on. Anyway, I don't think anybody said that.
So the prophecies of Ragnarok held true. The movie came out. For those of you tuning in for the first time, we like to do spoiler-free things as much as possible. This is not a spoiler-free episode. We will be revealing and discussing, to a great extent, the Thor movie. So if you haven't watched it yet and don't want spoilers, this isn't the episode for you. I want to say, very excited to watch the movie. I enjoyed it a lot. I want to get your guys' take, and then I'll share. Nathaniel, what did you think of the movie?
Really what he's trying to say is he's the biggest Thor fanboy in the trio here, yeah. So he wants to make sure he's last so that he can just go on about the golden hair and the beauty of the hammer.
It's so amazing. It's so amazing.
I'm a big fan of the Marvel Universe, but being the DC guy, right, obviously, not necessarily the cinematic universe, I enjoyed it. I would share the opinion with everyone that there's just a little bit too much humor. I'm sure we'll get into that as we talk about it, and unpack it here. But there was a lot of really cool elements to it. It felt like it had a totally different tone in the context of all Thor movies.
Oh, absolutely it did. Yeah.
Yeah. And I actually saw an interview recently with Ruffalo and Hemsworth where they talked about that was one of the big things that sort of, you can't really say got them on board because they're contractually obligated.
Right.
But they were saying, like, they were excited about it because
it was more
the
fun.
director was like, hey, we're not doing this the same way. You're not going to be the same, kind of brooding Thor, and you're not going to be the same, meathead Hulk, although he's a little bit of meathead. But overall, it was a fun movie. So yeah.
Give us a number out of 10. How many stars does Nathaniel give it? How many stars?
Again, maybe this is my DC dark side a little bit, but I prefer a more serious tone.
Okay.
So I gave the other ones 8s, as I recall.
Yeah.
So I'm actually going to score this. Oh, it's hard. Are we using decimal points here? Because I go like 7.8 if we can use decimal.
All right. You give it whatever number you want, bud. That's good.
And at least 0.1. And again, we'll probably unpack this more as we go on, but at least 0.1 of those dot points is exclusively the responsibility of Matt Damon, who showed up.
Assign it right to him.
Pulled me out of the moment.
Oh my gosh. I thought that was hilarious.
It's Interstellar all over again. It's going to wake the guy up in the bag. It's going to be some B-list actor who's excited. No, it's Matt Damon. Hey, I'm here, guys. I'm everywhere. All the time. Even where I don't belong. Okay. Sorry.
Yeah.
So but that's a good score. I mean, it was a good movie.
Yeah,
you enjoyed it. It's a good movie. Yeah.
Like, when they first introduced that clearly New Zealand alien with his hardcore accent.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, guys.
Korg, I think, right?
Yeah. I thought, I don't know if I'm gonna dig this. But then as it went on, with just a few exceptions, I was like, yeah, this guy's pretty hilarious. Like, it's, you know what I mean?
Okay,
all little elements like that. So,
what was your the favorite scene? Like that you?
Oh man, obviously a lot of moments in that battle scene in the arena.
Oh yeah, right. I mean, it was Yeah,
and actually some of the interactions too, when he goes back to being Banner, the interactions, which they featured a lot in the trailers, were really well done dialogue. And back and forth banter.
The banter was very good, yeah.
Okay. And I was also a big fan of Jeff Goldblum. I feel like in the context of all this silliness, it's just something about him, American treasure, Jeff Goldblum, you're just waiting for him to say, nature finds a way,
Yeah.
All of his Jurassic Park lines that nobody will ever forget. Yeah,
he was perfectly cast.
I don't know if you could have cast that any better at all. He was...
Yeah.
The Game Master is pretty flippant, and in all the renditions I've seen, that was perfect cast. I love it. Okay. All right. Should we go to Dave? Dave,
can I comment about, I love the line when he says, on Earth I'd be millions or years old, but here... And he just, that's it. I think that's so funny. Just, that's what he can do, right?
It's a very Family Guy-esque type joke. We just like leave it until it's become uncomfortable for everyone.
Yeah, exactly.
And then leave it some more.
Yeah.
All right. So, as you say, it's my turn to
Just
to rate it.
Yeah.
I gave the other Thor movies, I think, an 8 and a 7. 8 for first one.
8 and 8. You gave me
8.
both
8.
8s. Yep.
You sure I didn't?
No, 7. Second one was a 7. Sorry.
Yeah.
Nathaniel gave them both 8s.
How dare you correct me in front of Nathaniel?
Sorry, I apologize. I apologize.
So I am similar to Nathaniel. I think a little bit. First of all, I really liked it. I saw it twice. That's how much I liked it. So I can't, and I don't go see movies twice that often.
Like ever, yeah.
Yeah, like ever. But I saw it twice. So I really enjoyed it. It was super fun. I laughed a lot in it. And I tried to kind of let go of some of the issues I have sometimes with movies and just enjoyed it. And I did. But I also, I tend to really want to stick with.
Not winning? Was that
Yeah, when he clearly lost to Thor.
No.
Is that? Okay, sorry.
I don't know about all that business.
Okay.
I'm willing to call it a draw, though I think the refs gave the points to. Technically, I think it was a TKO for the Hulk, right? He got the best hits.
I don't know. The Game Master sure seemed in a rush to end the fight after Thor.
I don't know.
Knocked
If
the
you
sense
count
out of
number
Hulk.
of punches, it's Thor.
You know
It's
what?
Hulk for sure.
Somebody needs to get a proper panel of licensed boxing
And see who got the
watch
technical
each
knockout.
scene and score it.
Who gets the TKO, right?
To
Yeah.
just determine who won. Yeah.
That would be cool, actually. Yeah.
But not a WWE ref, because those guys never see the guy grabbing the chair and beating someone over that. You have to get an extra. Okay, but we are interrupting Dave. So give us your...
No, it's fine. Like I said, I really enjoyed it. I have some issues again with I did not need to see Thor throw the ball and hit himself in the head and fall down. I don't need a Chris Pratt fall in a movie with Thor in it. I do like Thor when he takes things seriously. Sometimes I like the peaks and the valleys, right? I want him to be serious about some things, but then when it's he loves to fight. I think we've talked about that he's this born and bred warrior, and that's what he loves to do. And when he's fighting,
toe-to-toe, yeah.
that should be this is fun, and he's having fun sometimes in the action scenes. But then, we might talk about this later on. I won't discuss it so much, but there are times when I felt like there should have been weight or gravitas to a moment, and I feel like they took it away from you. They kind of pulled the rug out from under the rug out from under me a little bit with this is a moment. Like, oh no, it's not. Look at how funny this is. Like that,
Yeah. In particular, the destruction of Asgard.
Yeah, that's the destruction of Asgard was. I feel like that should have been a poignant moment.
We could rebuild
and
and it'd be a haven for those.
No, those foundations are gone.
Oh no,
they're gone.
It's gone. Yep.
Yeah,
Which is we're laughing about saying it now because it's so funny to say, but in the moment of the movie, the gods' planet, it's like someone broke Olympus. That would not be necessarily funny. It would be an epic fall. But anyways, so Dave, out of 10, how many stars does Dave Saxon give it?
I will give it. I don't think it's a 9. And I think the first Thor is a better story. Like I said, it's a very good story. This is tough. You
can go decimal point if it helps you feel better.
Did a Hulk 0.8?
I think I'm going to give it, an 8-point Hulk, maybe.
I like it.
I don't know. I would probably give it an 8, again, to match the first one, because I feel like it's as good, but different way. Like the first one's a very good story. This one, the story is good, but it's more entertaining. It's a more entertaining movie. For sure, just in the fun. So yeah, an 8.
A flat 8? No, 8.
Flat 8.
A flat 8. Okay.
So I don't feel like I can rate it higher than the first Thor movie, because that's a very good movie.
Okay.
So similar to the question that Corliss asked me. Favorite moment?
Yeah, favorite moment.
So I love the Hulk. So all the stuff I love the fight scene with Thor.
Every Hulk scene.
I love the scene so much on the Quinjet when it recognizes Banner's voice. Welcome, Dr. Banner, strongest Avenger. I love that so much.
What? What?
And
or when Hulk walks by, it's like, oh, Intel. Oh, that's in my head now.
Yeah, or when he calls Thor baby arms. I love that.
That's a good line. That is funny. Yeah. That is funny. Baby arms.
He's like the only person in the world that can call Thor baby arms, right?
Because seriously, throughout that movie, I'm looking at Chris Hemsworth's arms, being like, dude, that guy is huge.
Yeah.
I mean, his
what does
arms.
it say that the only way you could beat him was CGI.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Like my kids would say, he's swole. You know, like that kid, he is just huge. The whole time I'm like man crushing on those arms, wishing I could have the self discipline to work out, but to do something like that, have big arms. But yeah, those are some good scenes too.
Yeah.
So for me,
Yeah, your turn.
How many 10 out of 10s did you give it?
Yeah. How many points above 10?
So, like you, Dave, I saw it twice. So I thoroughly enjoyed it. Was very, very much entertained. Kind of as we alluded to in our previous chats about Thor, the movies, like, so my hopes were for a 10. I wanted if I was making the movie, it would have been more of a saga drama, like Return of the King's Lord of the Ring movie. That's that's the movie I would have made when I envisioned Ragnarok, and as I was inspired by the original source material. That's something like that is what
7 endings.
It was
just like Return of the King.
with dreamy looking eyes. Master Frodo. Yeah, no. But you know, that kind of a truly epic. Okay, more epic and dramatic and powerful with light moments, of course. And I knew I wasn't going to get that. So I wanted a 10, but seeing the trailers, I thought, they're making it fun. Like, well, what's wrong with me? It's going to be a fun movie. So then I was hoping for a 9, right? And then, having watched the movie, but I think what I got was the happiest, funnest 8 I've ever had.
Oh,
okay.
Interesting.
So, because it was incredibly entertaining. I mean, it is a fun movie. Mm-hmm. Okay. I totally enjoyed it. I loved, obviously I loved when Thor beat the crap out of Hulk over and over again. That was awesome.
You're talking about a non-existent movie.
No, that was the movie.
Director's cut.
Yeah. But I really loved even both times that I saw it. My sweet wife was with me, and I leaned over after that opening sequence with him versus Surtur
that opening scene is so
good.
Underworld
there, and I just leaned over to my wife like, that was so satisfying.
Oh yeah,
like just to see Thor, because that's quintessential classic Thor from the comics I've read. Brazen, brave, and beating the snot out of everybody and everything that most people would not even dare to try. Right.
I wish we had more of that, honestly, with him just in these situations where he's surrounded, like Surtur, like you almost think like, well, what? He could lose to Surtur. You tend to think like, oh, I don't know who could win that fight, you know? But he's so confident in there, like not taking it seriously and surrounded
it's all
by
big
minions.
bluff. You think I'm frozen, but it turns out I'm not.
Yeah.
And the fun he has with the hammer in that battle, like all the fun things he's like chucking it back and like bam, 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 throwing it, recoil, then he throws it like in a circle that it just knocks out a bunch of the guys. He spins it like the shield. I wanted to see him do that too. Like, so the guy's blasting him with the Surtur power sword, whatever he's doing, and he spins it with the shield, and then the dragon part. When he's fighting the dragons, like, boom, drops the hammer in his mouth. Sit. Sit there while I think about what I'm going to do. Which, by the way, in a Hulk versus Thor scenario, why don't you just hold on to this till you calm down? One way for Thor to, again, beat Hulk. But anyway, I digress.
I did want to ask, though.
So that was
while you're talking about this part. Because you've said in the past that you love Thor, you love his portrayal, but you feel like he's never cut loose before, like he's never really shown off his ability. Do you feel like that's what that was, or do you feel like that was still a little bit of restraint?
So watching it, I'm just like, oh, that was so awesome, and totally geeking out on it. I mean, unabashedly, I'm totally nerding out on that scene, but in my mind, it's like, they're giving that to you now because they're not going to give it to you later. Mm-hmm. Right? That's what I was thinking in the back of my head, right? Yeah. And so, to me, it was satisfying to see it, but I still feel like it wasn't enough.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
I know the feeling, yeah.
That's
how I feel about Hulk, really. I feel like I have not seen enough.
Yes, right? Because he is capable of, like, cataclysmic size force, power projections, right? And so, anyway, but that was definitely one of my favorite parts of the fight with Hulk being great.
I love that so much that I want to go back to the opening scene because I feel like the guy that made the movie actually maybe went to some Marvel writer and said, "What's everything that Thor can do with the hammer?" give me the list of all the stuff he's done or can do with it, because I want to incorporate it all, which I like so much.
Yeah, and they used a bunch of it there, right? So that was super super satisfying, that part of it. So I said, it was 10, 9, it's the funnest 8 I ever had. So I agree with what you guys were saying too. A little bit too much of the humor, and I will say this: like I said, thoroughly entertained by the movie. I might even go watch it again. Okay. I got the movie pass, so it's not costing me anymore. Might as well,
movie pass.
Right. But there was some of the humor weakened the story a little bit, like just a little bit misplaced. So you have the heavy moments to contrast the light moments, and it's a better story. If everything's all light, then the light isn't as funny. We're like, and I think they sort of made the same, I don't know, mistake with I don't want to get off topic too much, but with Guardians of the Galaxy
Volume 2.
Yeah, so like Guardians of the Galaxy 1 to me is the all-time funniest action movie ever, bar none. That's a solid 10 out of 10 from David Corliss.
Yeah.
Okay, loved Guardians of the Galaxy 1. Chris Pratt is brilliant in there. The different characters they're funny, they're entertaining, but to contrast their humor and the quirkiness of the Guardians is a very freakishly demented fanatic Ronan the Accuser.
Right.
And even Drax is a disturbed, ticked off guy, right? Gonna kill everybody all the time, seeking revenge, and so you have these high levels, and then
even Gamora is very robotic almost,
she has that line, whatever horrors lie before us are dreams compared to what's behind me. These are dark people who then share light moments, and it's funny. So, and then in Guardians of the Galaxy 2, it was just all the funny, and the bad guy, you didn't even know who the bad guy was until the very end, and even then Kurt Russell is hilarious rather than evil, scary like that one. And so now, having said that, so I enjoyed Guardians of the Galaxy. If this had been the first Thor movie, I'd have been like, oh well, yeah, Thor's okay, I guess. He wouldn't be my favorite like he is. Thor 1 being the very good character story, the story of redemption that we talked about, having to be worthy of the hammer and all that. That made me, totally bond with the character. Whereas this one is I enjoy him. He's my buddy. I'd totally love to hang with him. He's fun, right? Whereas
the humor does have to fit with the character in question. And if they weren't funny or that nature in a previous film, to shift them that way.
Yeah. So you can make jokes and have it be funny, but there's certain times where it takes from the story to do it. And we're talking about when Asgard's actually blowing up.
Yeah. And
the blue guy, whatever his name is making, we can, if as long as the foundation's good, we can rebuild and it'll be a haven for those who are homeless. And then, oh, nope, the foundations are bad. It's gone. Yeah. And we retell that line and it's funny, but when you're watching the movie, you're almost like, shouldn't this be a serious scene? Just a little bit longer? Shouldn't that be serious?
How many Marvel movies we've seen where they're desperately trying to save the planet Earth from destruction?
And it gets you in, right?
That is the planet Earth for Thor. That is his home planet. That is, you know what I mean? That.
Just a little bit more serious would have been good. Another time which I thought was great, it shows Thor kind of finally getting on top. One of the many ways in which Thor gets the better of Loki finally is let's do the get help. I don't want to get help. It's so embarrassing. I love it. It's not embarrassing for me. And then he, get help. My brother's injured, please. And then he chucks Loki like a sack of potatoes and knocks out a bunch of guys, right? Turns out hitting people with an Asgardian hurts, right? so in that moment, they're about to fight Hela, last stand. If we don't hold her off for at least a couple more moments, all of the Asgardian citizens die. And then Loki says, I'm not doing, get help again. Mm-hmm. He's not going to say that right then. They really think they're about to face her to the death.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So anyways, and it didn't even, I don't think there's lots of times in the theater, people in Texas will laugh out loud in the theater happily and clap when things, but that one didn't even catch that one. I'm not doing it again. So it could have been better with just a few less of those I'd pick up. But any of the jokes to me aren't a party foul that's unforgivable. But the ones that I'm like, oh, was like character bad. There's 2 times where I'm having a hard time with it. And that was when Thor is in this disturbing roller coaster chair and you're getting ready to meet the Grand Master, which is very disturbing, but like in my mind, like Thor doesn't go, like I'm about to meet the Grand Master.
Yeah.
Okay. That was funny. Okay. But that wasn't Thor. Okay.
Thor doesn't scream in terror like
that. What I wanted what I was talking about earlier is the shifting in the character in order to make the humor.
Exactly. It's like the reverse way of DC screwing up their movies by not staying true to the characters, by making them too serious or getting too gritty. Marvel's making them too silly to make it too funny. So then, like Thor, like in my brain, if you had like all of the Avengers on that little thing and how their response would have been, like I could imagine like, Spider-Man, like spider sense tingling and Tony Stark being like, what the crap, kind of freaking out a little bit. And Hawkeye and Black Widow being like, this is messed up. This is
Bruce Banner.
Yeah.
Might have done that and you would
and then turned into, but Thor, like if I was doing that lineup, I would have, in my brain, he would just been like, unentertained.
Yes.
Like,
exactly.
He's not, if he knows he's meeting the only thing, a person doesn't scare Thor. He will go toe to toe with anyone. So meeting a person does not scare Thor in my brain. Again,
that's illustrated, as you said, in the first scene of the movie. So I mean,
he met like Satan, right? I mean,
and if he's willing to step in front of the Hulk, who can deck him across the face pretty hard, right? Nobody scares him, and the Hulk can beat him, right? So we all know that
was like, okay, that was. But again, I'm a sucker for funny too. So and then the other time was the cutting of the hair.
Yeah,
like when he screams about cutting his hair.
Yeah.
And it's funny because it's Stan Lee, right? Mm-hmm. And it's funny, but he's like, "Don't you dare to, please guys, don't cut my hair." Yeah. Which again, I can't even say it without laughing. I'm like, but that's funny, guys, and I like it, but you can't do that. Thor doesn't do that.
Well, this is the thing. If you look back at the first movie, that's the one I remember the most, where they had scenes that were funny scenes, but his role in the humor was not to be the funny man, but it was the humor was always arising out of his inability to understand what was happening around him. Like when he throws the glass down on the floor and says, another! And everyone's like, what did
walks into the pet store and asks for a horse ride or something.
I'd like a horse. We don't have any of those. Just cats and dogs. I want one of those big enough to ride.
Yeah, exactly.
So if you contrast that to all these moments in Ragnarok where he's doing like awkward, like he doesn't know how to lean on something or whatever, it's like, that's not the same guy that was in the first one in terms of character.
So, which is why, like, I wouldn't have fallen in love with Thor as deeply. It sounds so not straight, but it's just, I wouldn't have,
it's Hemsworth.
Yeah, it's okay. He's so dreamy, but because he's different in this one. But it is funny. Now, I will say, guys, we have a minority opinion.
Yeah, I realize that people love. My wife loved this movie, which surprised me. But can I go back to what we talked a little bit? I think we talked about this last time that when we talked about DC movies and Marvel movies and how they should be building a relationship, right, with the viewer, us, right, and how I love the Marvel movies so much, especially the Captain America and Iron Man ones, because they've spent so much time developing that relationship. And I think about like if this movie was like a person you were getting to know, how would you? I feel like they were being joking the whole time. You couldn't get to know the person, right? That's why I feel like it loses some well, I need some moments where I actually get to know you and not you just being silly, joking the whole time, right? So, and though it's fun, right, to go somewhere and have your friend be funny for 2 hours, you might say like, okay, I need you to stop the jokes now. I need to just talk to you for a minute. Like,
But thankfully, Thor, we've got the relationship with him over 2 previous Thor movies and 2 Avenger movies. So this is movie 5.
But this is him, like, showing up and not acting like himself. Like that.
So, but I'm just saying, they had the capital to spend a little bit in that regard. So that's why most of it I don't begrudge. Just where they totally deviate from the character, where Thor, people, events, things, things getting destroyed he doesn't want destroyed, that worries him. Yeah. Facing any villain does not bring about shouts of fear. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? That doesn't happen for Thor. So again, it was funny, so whatever. But again, we have the minority opinion. IMDb currently, as of November 14th, 9:30, out of 10 gives Thor an 8.2, which is an astronomically high number on IMDb. And it is, as of present, the highest rated Marvel Cinematic movie of all of them. It is Avengers 1, which was an 8.1, and Guardians of the Galaxy 1, 8.1.
Interesting.
And Thor gets 8.2.
Hey, could I interject something really quick that's way off topic, slightly off topic, I'll say. Did you know this? Wonder Woman is the highest grossing origin story now.
Oh.
Will that surprise you?
Without inflation taken into it.
Without inflation, yeah. You know what the previous origin story record holder was?
Probably Spider-Man?
The first Spider-Man movie with Tobey Maguire. Yeah, from way back then. Anyway.
Okay.
Conversation engaging.
Well, I was going to say, going back to that track,
Yeah.
I think that the entire tone was intentional right from the beginning, because they brought on Taika Waititi, who is, for those who don't know,
The director. You're talking about the director.
The director. He is in this circle of friends that includes the guys from Flight of the Conchords, some other funny New Zealand guys that you would recognize. The dude that does a voice in Voltron. He was in Yes Man with Jim Carrey and all that.
Quirky dudes.
Yeah.
That's the guy in Yes Man. He's the one who does the voice for the purple guy.
Yeah.
No, he's not.
Blue guy. Doug or whatever.
If you look it up on IMDb, it's the director.
Really?
Yeah.
I thought that too.
I
thought
stand
that
corrected.
too.
I usually get voices right, so I stand corrected.
I thought that was Murray from
Yeah.
Flight of the Conchords. I thought it was him too.
It wasn't quite as, like, he's almost even more quirky than Matt Damon was, like, when he does it. Yeah. But I guess I say that to say, there's no way that they hired him without knowing that he's bringing that to the table. And you can feel that tone, not just in Thor and other things, but the entire, like, I was thinking about it, and I was like, I'm pretty sure that Heimdall and Scourge were the only two characters of any consequence that didn't directly deliver a joke line of some kind in the entire movie.
Well, even
Hela does, Thor does, Loki does.
Yeah. His stuff that he gets from, like, taking over for Heimdall. I mean, he's pretty funny.
Suppose, but in terms of his demeanor in what he thinks a lot of them are saying ludicrous lines knowing that
it's funny.
Like, even Hela is while she's in the midst of destroying everything, which is, again, one of those moments where you're like, I don't know. I mean, we need one dark person in this. You know?
Yeah.
Really, I think about that. Heimdall sort of stands out as kind of the gravitas of the movie, right? Even though he didn't have a lot of scenes, but it sort of makes me appreciate him that much more to be like, kind of the
my wife loves his character in the movies, and I agree with her. It's really,
awesome.
really good. So just for interest sakes, the critics on Rotten Tomato presently 93%, and fans give it a 90. So that's very high numbers for both of those sources. 93 for the critics makes it second highest of the Marvel. The highest one from the critics is 94, Iron Man.
Is that a common balance thing in the Marvel Cinematic Universe for the fan score to be lower than a critic score?
It is not.
I would think it would usually be.
It's usually they're close, but some, just within a point or two. They're usually pretty close.
Which one was Iron Man? Which Iron Man did you say?
Iron Man 1, and then the fans currently on Rotten Tomato are giving it a 90, which puts it just below Iron Man was 91. Captain America, Winter Soldier, and Guardians of the Galaxy 1 are both 92, so just a little bit. Those are the ones that are higher. Our Avengers is 91 too. So those are the top ones. So some serious ones. Winter Soldier, very serious movie, right? And then Avengers is like one of the fun. Is got to, if he's not on the top of your list for best superhero movies of all time, then I don't know what your list is. But so it's right up there. So it's going to be a successful movie. It is a successful movie. We can anticipate that they're going to go this direction more, I think, to make it fun. And I have to think, just as an aside, that Chris Hemsworth wanted this to go this way. He loves. Have you seen those online clips of him? Those little spoofs of him with Doug. They're just so dang funny, and I laugh my head off. And I'm like laughing, like, but that's really not Thor, right? You're not really gonna have Thor do that. But so you he loves being funny, and it's like, dude, I would love to meet that guy. I'm sure I would enjoy his company. But anyways. So Marvel Universe going forward, let's look at where this leads the universe, right? So there is no Asgard. There is in a storyline. So I've had people ask me, does Thor ever lose an eye? In some of the storylines, he does.
Yeah, if you go, especially if you read they're really good. The Thor: God of Thunder from just a few years ago series. Actually, really cool. You actually get to see young Thor. It's actually a really cool comic. I'm going to recommend it to people. Okay. If you want a good Thor read, it's not that many. It's like 20 comics or something. But you see young Thor, and then sort of middle-aged Avenger Thor, and then All-Father Thor at some point where he's taken Odin's place, and
he's inherited all of.
He's got the eye patch, and he's inherited the what we would know as the Odin Force that Odin uses it. I don't know if I remember the movies mentioned that.
Yep.
But he's calling it the Thor Force, and at some point calls it, don't you mean the Odin Force? He's like, well, at this point I've had it way longer than Odin's ever had, so it's the Thor Force now. But,
so are they presenting him in that phase of life as like that's future distant? Like this is after the events of the many Avengers tales and stuff that you know.
Yeah, I think that they are sort of accelerating him to we're going to get him to a very powerful Thor. He's Odin Force Thor, maybe. I wonder if we're getting that to him.
Which you hope so, because I kind of skipped the how powerful he already was part, right? Like I still never feel like I really got that. So yes, he does lose an eye, usually in the storylines where he has become the All-Father of the Asgardians. He's inherited the throne and now inheriting the power. So he inherits the Odin Force. So yes, that's part of it. We seem to be jumping in that regard. In a lot of those there's a storyline, and you might remember the name of it, where and I haven't read much of this storyline, where he decides to rebuild Asgard after it's destroyed after Ragnarok, and he does it as a floating continent city, kind of hovering over like the breadbasket of America, like Nebraska, Oklahoma. Sorry, and he just decides to build Asgard there.
Yeah,
and whether people like it or not. And which is,
I'm real curious to see if they do take that route, because I think weren't they at the end they were sort of headed
saying, let's go to Earth, and
I'd be really interested to see if they take that.
Good idea,
because it seems like they are following that. All that happens in the Marvel Civil War storyline, it's all sort of tied into that. So I'm curious to see if that does, if that's where they're going to go. If they're taking those pieces of that and say, okay, we're going to put Asgard in Oklahoma, just like they did.
Wouldn't that create a massive field of shadow somewhere?
Yes, it would. Sorry about your breadbasket.
Some guys' crops are not getting sunlight anymore.
Well, they like in the comics they choose this. There's that little bitty town, Roxton, Oklahoma, probably a fictional town, I'm sure, but and there's just hundreds of acres, thousands of acres of just open sort of plains, and they park Asgard on top of that, and
wow.
There it is. Yeah. So, but as we're thinking that's where they're going, then don't ever leave the theater early, people, because there are going to be significant things come at the end of the credits. And so there, Loki and Thor talking, you're sure bringing me to Earth? The people love me, but they don't like me, right? And then all of a sudden, there's this huge ship that my first thought when I see it, and this is spoiler free because I haven't investigated what it's supposed to be, but my first thought, this looks like a Thanos ship.
I did.
Is that what?
I did look it up, so.
Oh, okay.
If you want the spoiler.
Is it official? Yeah. Do you know? I mean, go ahead.
You can give me the spoiler. So can I get, I thought it might be like a Kree ship or something.
So the guys that were introduced in Guardians of the Galaxy that were fighting against the Nova Corps people, the Kree, okay?
Yeah.
But then when we were talking the other day, I started thinking, well, I guess it doesn't have to be Thanos. I just thought Thanos was kind of golden and it had the breastplate, and then I was thinking, well, what about the Skrulls? Was that the point you brought up?
I don't think they've introduced Skrulls at all.
So that could be how they're introducing
Skrulls. Oh, you know what I bet it is?
It's
Chitauri, isn't it?
All right, so now we're going to shut up and just tell us what it actually is.
Chitauri, or the guy that Loki worked with in the first
Supreme
Avengers.
Leader Snoke. That's it. No.
Dang it! Why didn't I see that?
Great power. No, they. I think it was an interview with the director. I want to say, because it wasn't 100% clear, and what they were saying, or maybe it was Feige, but basically what they said was Thanos' ship in the comics, I guess it's called the Sanctuary, or he calls it that, or refers to it in that way.
Okay, yeah.
And they thought of this ship as like the Sanctuary 2. It is Thanos' floating palace, for lack of a better term.
It felt
or maybe more
right?
of a war machine, I don't know. But yeah, it's definitely related to him. So,
okay.
Because I brought up to you at the end of Ragnarok that I couldn't remember clearly, but in the trailer for the big movie that's coming out, Infinity War, that everybody's psyched for, isn't there a scene where the Guardians of the Galaxy have Thor slam into their windshield, and that's sort of their introduction to?
It seems like there was some sort of
like in the comics,
in the
trailer
For Infinity War?
For Infinity
Yeah, it
War
seems
that's
like there was
coming
like a
out.
teaser type thing for Infinity War, and that sort of happens.
Yeah,
I haven't seen it. I haven't seen it. I
Rocket
don't know.
Raccoon's like, oh, and they have to go out and get him and pull him in and stuff. And I could have sworn that was Thor. So I was thinking, as the movie's closing out and they're riding off into the sunset, I'm like, there's no way they're going off into the sunset, because in the Infinity War trailer, Thor is clearly in a rough spot, slamming into the, you know what I mean? So something bad has to happen, and then sure enough, post-credit scene, this big ship.
So it could be that, but then they also have, there's a couple movies that have to come out still, right?
Black Panther.
Black Panther is going to come out, and they want to introduce the Miss Marvel.
Captain Marvel.
Captain Marvel.
I don't know.
Can
they get Captain Marvel in time? Can they get out Captain Marvel in time before
I think
this?
we would have already seen trailers if that was the case. We're seeing trailers for Infinity War, so there's no way that they're going to.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't
okay.
I think anyway.
I would have thought, because then it would make sense if it was a different alien race that those characters fight, that Captain Marvel fights, like the Kree and the Skrulls, like we were talking.
It does create an interesting problem, though, because they're going to do 2 movies, right? Which means you're going to have, we're going to wait from now until whenever for Infinity War, and then we're going to wait again for the second part. If they don't release her movie beforehand, are they really going to release it in between 2 movies with this catastrophic?
I guess if they time it, if they work their timing correctly, they could, right? If the first part is sort of a lead-in kind of to the actual Infinity War.
I mean, comic books do it all the time, because they just
more
start
of a
the storyline
prologue.
over here and then merge it. I mean, they can do it.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. It's like you couldn't see some sort of like pedestrian origin story happening for Marvel, and then being like, isn't there something crazy going on out in the universe right now? Like, why is she just chilling?
Yeah.
So
I can see the first one being more like even though it's part 1, being more just a prologue to the war. So it's more like something to let us know that the second one is actually where stuff's going to happen. But you could probably fit
I think
3
the
more
first
movies.
one, like Thanos is going to beat the snot out of everybody.
Well, I don't think
it's the good guys.
I think they will probably save all the.
I don't know.
I think they're going to save all the beatings till the last movie. That's where they're going to
show
show their hand
for the third act.
Oh yeah, they're gonna. I think, but I wouldn't be surprised if they hold a lot back till the last movie to really get us.
He's going to be battling a bunch of squirrels for the entire first movie.
Yeah, exactly.
At the very end is going to be him stepping out.
So I want to pull something back to the Thor movie, because I've had a lot of people ask me about the villain of the movie, Hela. And one of the things that comic book I've discovered as I've dove into the comic book universe, thank you, Dave Saxon, for sucking me in. I loved every minute of it. Is the comic they keep some things the same, but they tweak certain things. And one of the things that's, as far as I'm familiar with, that's unique about the cinematic universe version of Thor is that Hela is brought forth as the daughter of Odin. Yeah. None of the cartoons I've seen or comics that has, correct me if I'm wrong, but
she is definitely not the daughter of Odin.
Okay, all right.
In fact, it would be kind of gross, because I think there was a storyline in a fairly recent one where Hela, some reason he's in hell, and the only way he can get out is, and the deal that he makes with Hela is the only way she lets him out if he.
If he Thor or Odin?
Thor.
Yeah.
Thor. I'll clean it up. She wants a baby from Thor.
Okay.
So they had better not be. She had better not.
They were holding hands under the covers. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So this was a good take, and it was a plot twist I didn't see coming. So I kind of enjoyed it, and it explains then why Thor can't beat her, because normally you can't beat Hela when you're in her realm of the undead. She's the goddess of death. You're on her territory, and nobody can beat her. Once you're there, she's got you. Okay. So in this version, for her not to be there and then be also still invincible, it makes sense because she's Odin's daughter in this version of the story, because now she's the one inheriting the Odin force.
Yeah.
At least
and they had to give her that to make it.
She's drawing her power from Asgard.
Yeah.
She's drawing her power. Where is she drawing her power?
Well, I remember the trailer was very clear. Right from the beginning, they were showing the hammer breaking scene very quickly, and I remember over and over thinking, how are they giving her that much power? Because she is not. So they had to assign her something, right? To say.
So if she has Odin's power, which he had power over the hammer, right? As Odin, right? He took it away from Thor and made it so he could only have it if he was worthy. So that makes everything else make sense. So that was a plot twist you didn't see coming that I didn't have a problem with. It was fine to change that. It didn't hurt my feelings or anything. That made everything else in the story make sense. So I was okay with him not being able to beat her, because it was like him fighting a young Odin now who was also demented and liked killing things, right? Mm-hmm. So, okay, so that makes sense then. And then when they bring Surtur back to life and he's blown up Surtur, it fulfills the Ragnarok prophecy that is true with all the storylines, that Surtur, and sometimes it's Surtur or it's Surtur's dragon that destroys Asgard and finishes it. Now, one thing that's also story plot relevant, I don't know if this will come in the future movies going forward, but Thor, when he has died in the comic books before and has brought himself back to life, another reason why he could always beat Hulk is when
or at least go 2 rounds.
Yeah, or at least go 2 rounds. So
Hulk has never been killed. So
yes, he has. And you're the one who told me about it. But anyway, so
I feel like he may have dreamed that.
That was a bad dream. So he would bring himself back to life, and he does it by, in this world of the dead, he's resting or whatever, and he hungers for battle again. And brings himself back to life by, first of all, he would be the inheritor of the Odin's force with Odin being gone, and he does it by summoning Mjolnir to him in the undead, and that's how he brings himself back to life, or at least in one of the versions. And then that story continues where then he decides to bring back all of Asgard, and he does it using his Odin force, and it always shows a picture of him holding Mjolnir when he does it, and he would bring back other Asgardians back to life, and he brings back the Warriors 3. He brother, in some versions, his brother Balder that we don't know in the cinematic universe, and then eventually he misses even Loki and brings Loki back.
Which I sort of like that idea because it feeds into what in the movie he talked about how the hammer was just used to focus his power and energy, right? But I will say that's fine if you want to say that, but he still ought to have the hammer.
Yeah, I want him to have the hammer back too. Yeah. Hopefully, one of the first things he figures out to do with the Odin Force is to make a new hammer. Because I like seeing him check people with it.
They were leading away from that because he gains the upper hand. Doesn't necessarily defeat, but he gains the upper hand over Hela using that spear, Odin's spear.
For a little bit.
Yeah, I'm curious if that was supposed to be the spear.
It was.
I forget
Odin's
the name.
Spear.
Is
it was
the
definitely Odin's spear. Yes. Yes. And by the way, I called it. When we were discussing the trailer, I said they show him with the lightning, I said it's because he's going to transcend the hammer. I totally called it. Props to me, Gold Star.
Can I point out I feel like somebody might call me out on this, but I'm pretty sure I recall they made a mistake in this movie when he's talking about the hammer to Korg and he's saying, "Oh, it was this great hammer. It's made from the heart of a dying star." That's incorrect. It was made in the heart of a dying star, but it's made from Uru, some mystical metal that. It's super hard to find and has
of the heart or in the heart.
In the heart, it was forged in the heart of a dying star.
Made from
Uru is a different material, but it was not made from the heart of it because there was a big discussion one time. I remember reading about that it should have some of the gravitational qualities of the heart of like a neutron star or something like that, and they're like, no, it doesn't have that.
Might just be the Asgardian word for the stuff that's inside of the heart of a dying star.
Well, I'm telling you, it's not.
All right.
It's a
Marvel Science by Dave Saxon.
Specific different metal. Because if you read Thor comics, there are several things that get made of Uru, and they're not star material.
So one other lore thing that I think is worth noting, just to tie a bow on the Thor story here, is so if Thor can bring himself back to life using the Odin Force and severing the hammer to himself in the underworld, so someone asked me, well, why doesn't Odin just bring himself back to life? Well, I believe, someone can chime in and tell me how dumb I am or leave a comment on the bottom, but in the mythology and as well as I've seen it in Marvel Cinematic Universe, when Odin does finally pass, in some storylines he doesn't, in some storylines they haven't passed, his role is to continue to protect Asgard, the protector of Asgard, in the afterlife, and he is in the greatest honor that the Viking Norse mythology has, is in a perpetual berserker rage of battle, which is the most noble, greatest thing that they can do and die and fight in a berserker rage of battle for all eternity, so that's their version of heaven, fighting Surtur, a fully realized Surtur.
And I think he's supposed to fight him till the sun goes down, and then he has like the night, and then he fights him again in the morning, right? Or something so
he's
like that.
always fighting him.
Every day is a new battle with Surtur.
And he can never stop, otherwise Surtur will come and destroy Asgard again.
Interesting.
So it'll be interesting if they ever involve that in the story. I'm guessing they're just gonna, now that we've moved past that, they're gonna go on to Infinity Wars. But just interesting story plot lines. I wonder if they'll bring in and maybe tease people to look at some of these cool comics that we've mentioned too.
They certainly portrayed him as tired and ready to be done.
I thought it was kind of a sweet moment where he said, I can hear your mother calling me. Like, that was sweet. He wanted to go be with her because she dies in the last movie, which is a very moving part of that Thor Dark World one.
I like in the movies and the comics, right? Loki is this mischievous character that you can't really. I mean, he's selfish and wants his own thing. And in the comics, he's that way too often. But there's sometimes in the comics they'll write him as kind of he'll have a change of heart and he'll sort of in his own way be helping Thor. And I really hope that they go because I really like that Loki. I hope that he is truly like and it probably will change him to make him a jerk at some point, but I sort of hope that they continue on with this. Okay, I see I've been a jerk. I'm going to help you now.
And in Thor's defense, like they've had like hundreds or perhaps thousands of years of brotherhood. You know, of course, Loki has tried to kill the story. Hey, he turned himself into a snake and then stabbed me, right?
Yeah.
Like he's been kind of a turd the whole time. They do have thousands of years of brotherhood where they weren't necessarily trying to kill each other. So I don't know. If you're
plausible that they would,
he would kind of get over it and be more willing to forgive Loki than anybody else, and less likely to give up on Loki because if they got so much history that we can't even fathom, thousands of years of history or something. So, anyway, very interesting to see where they're going to take the Loki relationship. It would be nice to have Loki on their side when they go up against people like Thanos and whatever. What about the Doctor Strange scenes there with Thor? There was way more of him in there than I thought.
Yeah. I was going to ask if you felt like that tonally was Stephen Strange.
I thought he did a really good job as Stephen Strange in that scene. I don't know how you guys felt because it kind of, in a way, made fun of Thor again a little bit. He was sort of again very a lot of levity towards Thor.
He didn't like balance. Thor clearly didn't like getting teleported all the time.
Yeah, but I thought that was what's his name? Benedict Cumberbatch. He is doing. He's nailing to me Stephen Strange.
Yeah, he's very.
He's like, I'm not breaking any nonsense. You're here. I'm not wasting 1 second more than I have to with your Asgardian nonsense like that. That's why I'm not taking the time to walk between spaces.
Yeah, we're getting you out. We're in a rush. Yeah. And I was kind of like, come on, dude, come on. Like, if Thor's eventually going to just like lightning blast your whole freaking building if you keep being a jerk to him. So then I was kind of. Oh, I love it. At the end, he's just like, let me call my hammer. Yeah. Since it's not by me now because you've been zapping us all around the building. He's like, sorry.
Yeah.
I don't know what I broke and I also don't care.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but I like that they really showed him as a master of the mystic arts. He was just able to do it, and then as soon as Loki uses some attitude, he's like, all right, bye-bye. Like, and you're gone. Like that. I liked it a lot.
I guess I don't remember the very end of Doctor Strange well enough, but I felt like watching that scene, I was like, that was the first time I was seeing the gloves.
Yeah. It seemed like
those are character iconic.
Well, I know, but I just for some reason I didn't recall that.
I think at the very end when they show him with the full kit,
at the end of the movie, he finally puts them on.
At the very end in his full Doctor Strange regalia.
Good use of the word regalia. Yeah. That was a good regalia.
Gold star for you too.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's almost time for who would win, but before we do that. Let's just touch the fact that Thor did win, right? I mean, I'm pretty definitively
sure
he totally won with that light when he decides to tap into a smidgen of the Odin Force and totally knocked Hulk on his keister. The Game Master says, I better save my champion. Let's zap Thor.
Pretty sure that the Hulk was pounding him several feet into the dirt. Now, Thor sucker punched him with the Odin Force.
Okay, sucker punched him. All right, sure. That's what we call a sucker punch now.
It does beg the question, though, of what would have happened if the Game Master hadn't.
Which they kind of, I like David.
Hulk would have compensated and destroyed Thor.
Oh, that's some compensation that we don't know of. I love that. I did like the scene, going back to favorites, when he gets the Hulk's hammer. And nobody sees it coming, and he knocks Hulk like half in through the wall, halfway through the ring, and even Hulk, everyone's like, "What?"
I love it so much when of grabs Thor and slams him around like he did to Loki, and then Loki
that's how it feels. Yes, when Loki gets up, that's how it feels, because that's everybody's favorite movie scene in Avengers. Like everybody loves it. So that was some
very
humor
clever
that was
writing to
brilliant.
bring back to that, right?
Yeah.
It's very clever.
But it does also bring another way in which Thor could defeat Loki, which I would have brought up last time we had the time. So you could just dreamily look into Hulk's eyes and say, "Hey, buddy, sun's getting real low. It's getting real low."
Can I say this real
Whoops.
quick?
That didn't work.
Hopefully my wife doesn't get upset about this, but the other day we were talking and she, we weren't arguing at all, but she was kind of getting a little, excited about something, and I did that to my wife. I was like, "Honey, sun's getting real low."
That went over me, I'm sure.
She thought it was really funny, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So okay, apparently it doesn't work when Thor does it, but if he just gets a recording of Romanoff doing it, then there you go. He can be Hulk that way and chuck him into space or whatever he wants to do. So anyway, okay.
All right, it's time for everybody's favorite segment.
Who would win? Yes.
What do you got for us today?
All right, so
Okay.
random names drawn from the hat. It's time for the Titans of the Nerdist universe here to decide the fate of two
Okay, up
comic
first.
book icons.
Up first, we got Gandalf.
Gandalf.
He's a heavy hitter.
Okay, from Lord of the Rings, Gandalf. You shall not pass!
Yeah.
Okay.
And next up,
I had to say it before any of you guys did, because I know
Not
you're
a-
thinking it.
not so much of a heavy hitter. Black Cat. I don't know if you don't know who she is. She's
Spider-Man,
what would you call
girl
her? Anti-hero from Spider-Man. Yeah, she's kind of a thief. I don't even think she has. I think her powers, if I recall,
She's
I can look
extremely agile
She's-
and
yeah,
thieving
she's sort of-
skills.
she's basically the Marvel Catwoman, I would say. She, I think she has a sort of a latent power that she can influence luck to go on her side, like a black cat. Like someone she's up against will have bad luck, she will have good luck. So she can sort of tilt the odds in her favor a little bit.
Okay, so were the fight to be on a rickety old stone bridge,
There you go.
in her case, the luck it would break and Gandalf will fall and not her?
I shall not pass.
Well, I guess they're not if you're going to kill the bridge underneath your feet.
Yeah.
So this is one of those ones where we got to decide in which universe or what circumstances could someone like her take Gandalf, right? Because Gandalf's he's a heavy hitter, right?
He's a heavy hitter. He's
coming out of a genre and a time space of this sort of medieval in nature. She's coming from a more modern, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Although we're not necessarily she doesn't necessarily use any technical gadgets or anything. But I'm just saying, like that's at least a little bit of a factor.
So no superpowers at all? I thought she definitely has her claws in Spider-Man in the storylines.
Yeah, so the only thing is it's technically referred to, I believe, as a probability field manipulation, but she can cause her opponents to have bad luck.
He's accidentally going to cast the wrong spell, or
Yeah, like, I mean, I guess it would depend, right, how hard that works. If his spells backfire, I mean, I guess I would take the right spell that backfire.
Oh, wrong franchise.
So really,
My bad.
yeah, exactly.
Okay, so
yeah.
I'm in this case I'm going to give Gandalf a 95% probability, right? Could she steal something out of his pocket? Yes. Would she know how to use any of it? No.
I think her only chance comes in the probability. So it's like, what's the probability that something bad luck enough happens to where he had just bad luck defeats him, right?
Yeah.
Like I said, like
he's not even really dependent on that staff per se.
No.
And he uses it enough, but there's no indication that's
it's just
like
a focus.
a
I
sword.
think.
And even if his bad luck turns to a moth, and then a big falcon will come and save him.
It was an eagle, wasn't it?
Eagle, whatever.
Yeah.
Eagle
Yeah,
is ridiculous.
I will say I gotta give
Don't be silly, David.
I don't know if I'm gonna go 9. I'm gonna go 80% Gandalf because I feel like there's a 20% chance that her bad luck could, like I said, like he could do.
But Gandalf's not even human. You know that, right? He's not a human. And they live for like hundreds of years.
Are you sure he's not?
Absolutely
What?
sure. He's not human.
Oh,
Yep.
well, if
They
someone
live
wants
hundreds
to,
and hundreds of years.
what is he then?
He's like a gift from the creators of Earth. That there was a certain number of wizards sent to tend and protect the Earth.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Wow.
Snap. Well, apparently we have a Thor and a Tolkien expert.
I guess so. Wow, I didn't realize that.
Yes.
Next episode,
Yeah.
we're doing Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
Yeah, just give me 7 days to watch all the movies.
Yeah.
Extended features.
Yeah, really.
Yeah. So anyway, Nathaniel, who wins?
Yeah, there is. This is the thing. I can't think of any sort of factor that fits into her limited abilities and the situation that would really give her the edge per se.
Okay.
I mean, if you somehow
So
transported them to inner city New York, and he's befuddled and confounded by all the noise and everything,
Yeah.
but that's an environmental thing that,
She would, yeah. Okay.
Does this change your position at all? She once defeated Sabretooth.
Gandalf is known for leaping at you with his claws extended. No, it's not. I don't think that weighs in. It's not a physical contest, right? I mean, we've already established there's no tool or anything that's going to rob him of his magical abilities. So, as long as he's got that, I mean, she's kind of tough.
The moth, too. All right, so it's unanimous decision.
Yeah, it's got to be Gandalf.
Yeah, this decision by knockout, not even TKO, knockout, Gandalf.
Though I can't. I would like to do this again, and it's random, so we don't know if it's going to happen. I don't want to stack it, but I would like to see Gandalf go up against someone a little heavier. Like, let's say,
we'll keep his name in the pile. We'll keep his name.
Gandalf versus Thor, right? That would be.
There you go.
Gandalf versus.
Well, don't tease it if we're not going to do it. Just
okay. Well, just you guys can think about it. You know what? Comment on there about it.
All right.
Okay, so we're gonna do
our next matchup.
We're gonna do
random draw.
So this one is Kraven the Hunter, which at first I said I've read enough Spider-Man. At first he sounds lame, but if you read him, he's someone to be reckoned with.
So he's a superb hunter, master of weapons and knives and sharp edges, hunting prey, stalking prey, trapping prey. He gives Spider-Man a run for his money several times.
Well, so he ingested mystical potions that also gave him superhuman strength, about 2 tons he can lift, and speed, able to sprint short distances up to 60 miles per hour.
Oh.
And let's see, they've also slowed his aging process, so he's pretty old, but in prime condition.
Looks fabulous in animal furs.
Exactly.
It does look fabulous.
He's got a kicking wardrobe. Yeah, this is the best stylist in the business.
Power.
Yeah. Is the speed, strength, and agility of a Olympic athlete, even without those mystical potions.
Okay, who's he fighting?
Brilliant tactician, all the stuff. So anyway, he's formidable. Mr. Fantastic.
Mr. Fantastic himself. So he's the brains behind the Fantastic Four and the ability to stretch to extreme.
Let's get a solid break. So his smarts are off the charts. I think that's something we could like. Mr. Fantastic
routinely considered the smartest guy.
Now I will say this off the chart: you can't hurt or damage Mr. Fantastic just because of the nature of his body. But I'll go down briefly here. So he possesses the ability to convert the entire mass of his body into a highly malleable state at will. Let's see.
He definitely can get hurt. I've seen plenty of comics where he's bloodied and knocked out. For example, when Hulk comes back to seek his revenge.
I guess it takes an extreme amount of it's like
trying to hurt rubber.
It's like trying to hurt rubber, but it takes like Thor's hammer, Hulk
strength. If I'm up against a guy like that, I'm immediately thinking about containing him somehow.
Yeah.
And if you are a hunter, traps, I would assume, fall into your wheelhouse of.
See, this is actually really good. This is a classic. Intelligent smarts versus the ultimate in street smarts of battle, right? Would that be a good summary here? I mean, Mr. Fantastic, whenever something's invincible, is like, well, let me invent something that saves the day for us. Like that's
this is the other question too. Do we give him access to any like his lab or any of the many gadgets that he?
Can I add a little bit more here?
Sure.
Because of the makeup of his body, he can absorb the impact of any man-made projectile. Right, so any bullets, sort of spears, bullets, anything like that won't hurt him. He can expel back the object with similar energy. He can absorb. He can absorb the energy of large explosives.
So I'm rubber and you're glue. Whatever you say about something.
He's rubber and you're
okay.
He's rubber and you are damageable flesh.
Rubber man, a different hero.
He can also, distribute the weight of his body so that if he he can put
one part can be heavy and one
into
part
his
can be
fist, and then he can hit you crazy hard.
So here's how I would imagine. Like if I'm getting out my kids' action figures and we're playing with this. I'm seeing Kraven Manhunter setting a sweet trap, catching Mr. Fantastic, and Mr. Fantastic has to catch out of it before Kraven probably mistakenly thinks he can hurt him by doing X, Y, or Z, and it doesn't work. Before Kraven can figure out something that is going to damage him, he's got to get himself out of the trap.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how I could easily see this fight going down.
So I feel like I'm going to give it to Mr. Fantastic, just because I feel like I don't think Kraven could come up with a trap that Mr. Fantastic would not consider to be just a toy to him, and he could easily get out of it. I mean, and then I think that the person that Mr. Fantastic is, he would probably very easily, without, maybe not easily, but it wouldn't be terribly difficult for him to devise some contraption quickly that contains and immobilizes Kraven the Hunter, and he's like, okay, you're done.
See, but usually, Mr. Fantastic usually wins by technologically advancing someone. Like he does something more clever or uses their technology against them. Yeah. And I think it would be completely out of his element to be like fighting against someone who has like bear traps and stuff.
And caught off guard. Right? Like,
but no, I don't think any of that stuff. Bear traps wouldn't hurt him. He would just squeeze out of it.
Yeah, I know, like a bear trap. But you see what I'm saying? It's a totally different type of...
I think to him it would be almost like you're just messing with it. It'd be like a child trying to attack someone. You're like, no,
think about the fictional materials, right, in that universe. Like vibranium, for instance. Oxygen deprivation. A tank that is purely for the standpoint of suffocating him to death. You know what I mean? Because presumably he still needs oxygen, despite his other abilities. That would be my thought if I'm Kraven the Hunter. I'm going to contain him, and then I'm going to use that container in a manner like that to
have the container itself be the thing that
exactly.
Him. So that being said, so I think Kraven, if he's the hunter, which is what his power is, his chances of getting and defeating Mr. Fantastic, where either he kills him or Mr. Fantastic requires saving, much higher. Like 50 to maybe peaking at 60 if I'm feeling really sassy. Okay, but that's probably too high.
I can agree with that. Maybe peaking at 60.
Yeah, maybe. But if you put them in a ring and they're fighting each other, Fantastic soundly clobbers them.
Yeah,
I can agree with that. Yeah,
soundly.
And if it's
all of and if it's the other way around, where Kraven's wanted for something and Mr. Fantastic needs to hunt him down and find him, 90
something percent Mr. Fantastic. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. That's what I do. So overall win, I'm giving to Mr. Fantastic. Dave, your vote's Mr. Fantastic.
Mr. Fantastic.
Right? How about you, Mr. Blevins?
I just lean a little bit more towards Kraven the Hunter. Like, even if he's being pursued, even a hunter is being pursued, covering their tracks, hiding well, that sort of thing, and then turning the tables. I mean, that's like a storyline. It's fun. So yeah, but it's closer to 50-50 hard for me because again, circumstance, right? Is what's swinging one way or the other. I don't think there's a clear power winner because, as you said, it's intellect versus sort of a more
street smarts type thing, or jungle smarts, however.
Well, let me say this. If anybody is listening to this and you disagree or agree, let us know.
Okay, so we've got Mr. Fantastic winning by a split decision, shall we say, or a not completely unanimous decision. So he went split decision, but Mr. Fantastic wins. All right, Mr. Fantastic.
Gold star to him as well. Everybody's getting gold stars today. Congratulations all around.
All right. So thanks for everyone for listening to the show. We'd love to hear your comments post your comments there on the webpage or text us directly if those of you have our stuff and get a hold of us. Let us know what you think. Thanks for tuning in.
Thank you for listening.
Thanks a lot. See ya.